Okay, for those who missed it in the first class, we created a table for you to insert your questions. Now, you have to do this at least once a week. So, I'm going to jump into VMware and start SQL Server Management Studio. Now, the server name that we're going to is called essql1.walton.uark.edu. Make sure you have Windows authentication selected and just your GACL username. It uses pass-through. So if you expand this Databases tab and you go down to ISIS 4283, you should find your username prefixed onto one of those database names. So right-click, go to New Query. Okay, so we're going to create table questions. So just as a little structure, it's going to be create table, table name, parentheses, semicolon, and then column name, data type, and options. And then comma, and this can be just repeated over and over again. So that's the basic syntax for a create table statement. So essentially, our table name is going to be questions, and we're going to have two columns. The first one is going to be an ID. This uniquely identifies the record. And our other column name is going to be just question. It's the actual question itself. So the ID's data type, well, that's going to be an integer. And options, we're going to make this the primary key. And also, we want that to be auto increment so that we don't have to keep track of the numbers themselves. So there's a special keyword for Microsoft called identity. So ID int identity primary key. Now for our question, the data type is going to be a variable character data. In fact, we'll make that Unicode and varchar max. Okay, that's the maximum size of any character string. And for the options, let's make it not null. This means that you absolutely have to insert something into it. Okay, so now if I just execute that query, you should get commands completed successfully. And now if I expand my database, and then there's a tables folder that you can expand, you should see it right there. So I'm going to right click this and go to select top 1000 rows. This will automatically create a new query and write some basic SQL for us, which is the select top 1000 of the columns from the fully qualified table name. And you can see here is an empty result set or a table with nothing in it because we don't have any data in there yet. So I'm going to make a new query, and let's insert into the syntax for an insert statement is insert into table name, and then parentheses column name, and you can have multiple of those. Let me just zoom out a little bit. Alright, and then values, semicolon, and inside here goes actual values that you want to insert. So that's insert into table name, column names, values, actual values. And of course you need to have one value for every column name that you're inserting into. Okay, so the table name is going to be questions, the table we just created, and I'll make sure to space that out properly. And the column name, well, we're not going to insert anything into the ID, we're just going to insert into the question column because the ID is automatically managed by the database management system. And then the values for that, well, let's just say what is an ERD. This is a conceptual question from our first lecture. Now we're getting some squiggly underlines, but that's probably just because IntelliSense hasn't indexed our new table yet, but we'll see. If we hit execute, we get one row affected. If it's a success on an insert statement, you'll get the number of rows that were affected. Now if we go back over to our select statement and just run that again, there we can see that it's created the question with the ID inside it. Okay, so I'm just going to save this query here, and I have created a folder already on my desktop for this class. Let's see, right here. Let's just say we'll call this one create questions table. Alright, let's save it. And then also I want to make sure that we have it in the right encoding. So one thing I like to always put this in is, let's see, US ASCII should be down here somewhere. This just makes it consistent to work across different operating systems. So we'll use US ASCII. Although probably a little less important, it's just a little helpful. Okay, so now if I ls, I can see that that new file has been added. So let me just add that, and then commit it to the repository, and we'll say create questions table as my commit message. Alright, now let me just push this up to the repository and enter my super secret password. Alright, now if you go to https://isis4283/questions-answers. I have just pushed it up, so there you should see this SQL. So you can pretty much just execute this if you want to do copy and paste. And we'll add that in the notes. So that's it. That should be all you need to do. We'll talk to you soon.